I'm excited because today we have a special guest today on the show. It is Mount SAC midfielder for the women's soccer team. She is a sophomore here, Hannah Grady. How are you, Hannah?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. What are you going to school for? Are you going for communications?
Yeah, communications.
Okay, for communications, like what are you trying to do with that? Become like a broadcaster for ESPN or?
Yeah, I think I'd probably aim towards being a broadcaster for ESPN, but I'd rather do my actual major classes out of 4-year because it's a lot cheaper.
Okay.
I want to transfer out with my AA or without. I'm NCAA qualified, so if I get recruited to a D1 or D2, I can leave in the spring.
Okay, that's awesome. Do you have any, is there any teams that are talking to you yet? Or?
Boise State and Colorado State have been the most prominent schools recruiting me.
Okay, that's awesome.
And there have been a lot of D2s. I got invited to go in the sophomore showcase this weekend in San Jose, so we should also see how that goes.
This weekend?
Yeah.
Ooh, hopefully it's not raining.
I know. It might be on Saturday, but I like playing in the rain.
You like playing in the rain? Do you play better in the rain? Low-key?
I might play better in the rain, now that I think about it.
I mean, you played really well this year. From what I could tell on the team, it looked like the girls were a really close-knit group of teammates. There was a lot of camaraderie there. Could you speak on that? Like was the team as close as it seemed?
Yeah, I feel like on the field, even if there were differences off of the field, they never really had affected us too much. Like, we'd be able to get over them because we knew at the end of the day, we're all here to play soccer, and that's what was most important. I think our coach really focused and reiterated the fact he always said Q-tip, which is, quit taking it personal. And so I think that helped a lot because, anytime you would see someone get butt hurt, you could just say Q-tip, and then you'd be like, oh, you're right, and stuff like that. I feel like beforehand, also season started, we did a lot of, team bonding. We went up to Mammoth for, what felt like an eternity. But it was really fun. We did a lot of running, a lot of soccer. I feel like a lot of us got to know each other on a way deeper level than if we would have just stayed here practicing.
Was it different from last year? Because I know this is Coach Juan Sanchez's first year. It's actually his interim.
Yeah, this
first year as
was
head coach.
Incredibly different, in the best way possible. And that's not to say anything about the coaching staff, but I just feel the quality of our practices and the preparation we had going into games and going into season was attacked at a way different philosophy used. And I feel like that really helped us get to where we were able to get to. And I feel, honestly, San Bernardino Valley got really lucky because we could have won state.
Right. I saw that they knocked you out of the playoffs and that they snapped your, was it a 6-game undefeated streak at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, it was a last-minute goal. Definitely was a heartbreaker, but I was honestly so proud of my team. I didn't get to play in that game because of a situation with yellow cards, but I was definitely cheering them on and supporting them. I don't think they could have played any harder, so...
From your highlights, you look like you're a very hard player to take down.
Yeah.
Get the ball away from.
Yeah, I think it's also the way I'm built and the way I work out. Where I want to be is Division I, and so I know I'm not gonna be able to body everyone off the ball at Division I level if I don't have the physique for it, if I don't have the muscle buildup for it. And I know at JUCO, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot more yellows just because it's junior college, and so. The fouls that are going to be called, refs are going to be looking out more for the player's safety or, advantage of a player to a player. And usually I end up being, the more dominant player in 50-50s. Not every yellow was deserved.
Of course. Almost none of them are usually. Going back to your guys' year, you were the first team since 2008, first women's soccer team here, to advance to the second round of the playoffs. How does it feel to be a part of that?
It makes me smile just thinking about it because I know honestly we could have gone so much further, but I'm so happy that we even got to where we were. A lot of people had doubted us from the beginning, oh, it's gonna be like last year, they're gonna have the same season, it's not gonna matter, or had doubted our coaching staff, and I think that all just had gotten us to come closer together because we knew if other people around us aren't gonna be supportive, we need to be supportive of each other. And so I feel since we were able to get to second round and we were able to do it, there was so much counting on us. We beat the first seed in the first round of playoffs to get there, and no one thought that was possible. We were the biggest underdogs, and so to take them out just gave us all the more confidence to be yeah, we can do this. We are better than what other people think, and we're going to prove it.
You guys definitely proved it. So this is your sophomore year here at Mount SAC, and you said you are going to be NCAA, or you already are NCAA eligible, correct? How would you describe here your time here at Mount SAC? And if you could describe it in one word, what would that word be?
Memorable.
Memorable?
Yeah, I think my time here was well served. I had the opportunity to go Division I to Alabama A&M out of high school, and I didn't really want to leave. And that was probably the hardest decision for me to make personally because my family was against it. And so that also caused for a hard time. And then for me to choose a school that's not 5 minutes up my street like Chafee was also created more issues. And I think even throughout all of that, like, I wouldn't do anything different. Like, I'll forever be a SAC dog, and I really appreciate the experience here. Like, in fact, I wish I would have redshirted so I'd had another year. And we all joke about that.
Yeah, it is a different experience just being here on this campus. You balled out. I don't think I've ever seen a highlight video with so many midfield goals.
Yeah.
You really have a cannon for a leg.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It definitely took a lot of time because it was a complete contrast from last year, from the way I trained and the way I wanted this year to be. I just wanted it to be a complete 360 of the player that I was, and I think I accomplished that. Because last year I had 3 goals, 5 assists, and then this year I ended with 10 goals and 6 assists, so definitely topped myself.
Yeah, it's huge. In fact, on your Instagram, your very first post, it's you kicking a field goal. It looks like it's at least 30, 35 yards back in high school.
Yeah, that was my sophomore year. My brother was out there, and so he used to be a field goal kicker, and so I would always practice with him sometimes just for fun. But then I was like, maybe I should just do it, and so the football team over there was trying to get me to play for them, but it was the same season as soccer.
So it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Was that did that take practice being able to kick that ball? Because I hear it's different than kicking a soccer ball.
It's different, but not too different. Mm-hmm. A lot of kickers had played soccer before they played football, and coaches wanted that because they knew how to kick a ball. And I didn't find it really hard, as hard as kicking a soccer ball. I guess it just depends on how much pressure is put on you too, though.
So it was easier for you, much easier for you to kick a football than it was a soccer ball?
Yeah, because in football you're really just lifting and hitting with power, but soccer, it has to be direct in a certain area.
So you want to be a sportscaster. What sports do you follow the most? What sports do you like?
I'll usually follow what's most accessible. Right now, the Women's Professional League had just ended, so can't really follow that one as much besides men's soccer, which I don't really like watching.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. It's just different than women's soccer.
Mm-hmm.
It's fast, and I like the skill work that they do have, which is comparable to women, but the fouls and the aggressiveness is way different. I feel guys kind of roll and do what Neymar does, and then girls are kind of brute-ish on the field.
So you're saying girls don't flop?
Yeah, exactly what I'm saying.
Girls don't flop. So you do plan on playing collegiate NCAA Division I women's soccer. Do you plan on playing professionally after that?
Depending on how my 3 years went, I think it could be a possibility for me to go there. I would appreciate if that were to happen, if God were to see that in my future. But if he doesn't, I don't think I'd be unappreciative of the time that I got to spend with it. But soccer's definitely my passion. So if I could play that for the rest of my life and get paid, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? To get paid for what we're passionate for.
Mm-hmm.
When you said you wanted to, you changed you changed your regimen and became kind of a different player over the last year. What specifically were you trying to change?
I think I knew what I needed to work on, and what I needed to focus on was being able to keep the ball low when I take shots, because I do have a rocket for a leg, and so when I hit the ball, I can hit it really far when I need to, but it got to a point where I couldn't control whether I needed to hit it far or close if I was close up. And so that was my big issue, because I felt there were a lot of opportunities that I left unfinished because I didn't focus on that. I just assumed I played soccer my whole life, I don't really need to practice on this anymore. This was the basics. And then this past summer, I just really went back to the basics, practicing footwork every day, juggling. I train at the Lab 909 in the IE. Mm-hmm. So shout out to them for getting me in shape. I feel that helped a lot too. Just the way I trained and approached things with a certain mindset was way different. I think I came in with the mindset knowing this is my last year to do what I needed to do to get where I need to be.
D1?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Is it correct that you were on Manchester United's under 19 soccer club for women?
Yeah, but I think it's like
Is it a different one?
yeah, it's
out
like
here?
club.
Like club out here?
Yeah, I played. I didn't even start playing club until I was 14, so I
Okay.
started really late compared to other people. But after that, I played with them till I was 17, and then I moved to IE Surf, which is now IE Legends. So we were like the last. The OO girls were the last ones set before they had their name change and everything. And I think that's where like I had the coach who had the most impact on me as a player.
Okay.
Yeah, when I first started with him, he was like, "Okay, we'll get you going to a D3 school," and I knew that that wasn't what I wanted, but I knew that that was where I was at currently. And then being with him for a couple years, I was able to get to like, okay, we can get you going to a D1 school, and like that was just the biggest change for me. For someone who was like so loving and so caring to all of us, like we were all considered his daughters. It was just really important. Like Clay Quinman, one of the best coaches, he played on the Mexico national team, was the
Wow.
first American captain to ever lead the team. He's just done a lot for a lot of people, and I like really appreciate that. Last year, 2018, he got diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he told us, like, after one of our games when we were out in Vegas for a showcase tournament, and, like, we all just started crying. But I'm so glad that he's still here. And, like, he fought. Like, he got through chemo and everything. Like, he did what he needed to do so he could still be here for his kids, too, Capri and Cody. But he's definitely, like, I won nationals with him, which is an amazing feat. We went 2017 State Cup, won that out in Temecula, went to regionals in Utah, beat out the number one team, Pennsylvania, to go to Florida for nationals, where we beat out the other number one team from the East Coast, Illinois, to make it to like be the champions of everything
Wow.
in PKs.
Wow.
Yeah, and a red
That's
card.
awesome. A red card.
Yeah, I think that's honestly like the greatest experience, which is I feel why I'm like so bummed about being knocked out in second round, because I knew what we were capable of, and I knew that like we were a state winning championship team, and there's no doubt about it. But the experience you get when like you run out on the field knowing that like you've done all you could, and like that's it, like you won it, like it's done. Because I feel we won Cyprus, and a lot of the parents were like, wow, like that was amazing, like that's definitely the championship game. But I feel like if you're an athlete and you like really like consider it, like I'm so proud of us for being the number one seed. Like we were all so hyped about it, and it was the greatest feeling. But when we ran out on that field after we won in PKs, it was like a run out on that field, celebrate, and know like, okay, we have to get back to work. And I knew that like when we ran on the field, when we won nationals, it was like, okay, celebrate, and like that's it. We finished what we needed to. So I felt like we were just left like open.
Like an open book
Yeah.
that the story wasn't finished.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's always tough when you know you're stopped short of where you can get to.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a lot of sophomores leaving this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that'll have a big impact on the program, but I feel like what we did this year has a bigger impact to where girls will want to come here. Like last year's recruiting was really hard because of how we ended the season and how like some of our games had went and how our season looked compared to like now, with the amount of wins we had, with the teams that we played, with the teams that we'd beaten, with how far we got in playoffs. Like that all comes into account when you want to choose a school.
Looking back on this season compared to last season, what would you think the biggest difference was? Like when it comes to you said that you ended last season on a sour note. It didn't end very well. This season, you guys were able to end actually on a very high note. You just were bounced out of the playoffs a little early, but you beat the top. Was it undefeated?
Yeah,
seed?
that was their first loss.
That was their first loss. They only had, I think, 2 or 3 ties on the season. It was undefeated, top ranked, first seed in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What do you think that the biggest difference from that team last year to this team is?
I feel like a part of it's the coaching staff, but the majority of it would be the sophomores. Last year, coming in, a lot of sophomores, like, you could just tell it was different. Like, either they didn't really care or they just wanted to be there to have fun. And so a lot of us freshmen like came in starting, and I feel like us having 2 years under our belt gave us the advantage this year to be able to guide the freshmen incoming that like this isn't like a joke to us. Like you can really get far if you really want to. Like the more you push yourself and the more you push your teammates, like the better the team will be and the better the outcomes will be at the games. Like you'll get the result. And I feel like that was definitely most important for us sophomores. I knew that we had a certain like standard that we had to be held accountable for not only ourselves but for our teammates looking up to us, because we knew like we looked up to the sophomores in the beginning and then we just kind of like knew what we needed to do and that we were going to be the ones that have to handle it. Like I think last year there were only 2 sophomores on the field after like the first few games.
Wow, they all fell out of rotation? Or?
Yeah, they ended up on the bench.
So it sounds like there was a culture change, and your class was able to bring that to the soccer program.
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel like like last year was a rebuilding year, and I feel like to be able to build on top of what this team had done this year is just makes coaches' lives so much easier, because we really like in my mind we set the foundation for how Mount SAC women's soccer program is going to come back. Like a lot of people are like, no, their women's soccer programs like whatever, they have softball, they have football, and like talking everything about all these different sports, but I want them to know like women's soccer is still here. Like men's soccer is amazing, phenomenal. Like you can tell the coach had instilled a culture from it within the very beginning, which is I feel like what causes them to be so successful. And then for us to be able to be the standard, the new standard set, like the new era of Mount SAC women's soccer, I feel like is what's going to happen. Like there's no doubt in my mind with the recruiting that's going to be done that they'll just make it as far as we did in playoffs, if not further.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are able to change that culture, because I mean, for Mount SAC to not make it past the first round. I know all programs end up with lulls or like slow times where they don't do very well. But like Mount SAC was always known for its soccer, both men's and women's. And for you guys to break that barrier and make it past the first round and to be an undefeated team to do that as well, it speaks volumes on, I think, the resilience of your team. To be able to come back from like a down year last year and to put that aside and completely just change the way the soccer program handled itself, I think is a great accomplishment.
Yeah, I feel like we all in all wanted it more, and that's because Coach Juan, Yvette, Mikey, Joe, Manny, Cass, Alex, like the whole coaching staff just really reiterated the idea of us needing to buy into the program for us to be successful in the program. And so I think that was most important, because we didn't like, okay, of course we don't want to practice on Sunday morning at like 6 a.m, but if that's what we need to do to be successful, like we'll do it. We played soccer 6 out of the 7 days of the week, only off day being on Saturday, and I feel like although that was a lot for us to be able to handle, it definitely like helped us become stronger mentally in certain situations, for us to be able to come back in certain games. Like the games after Long Beach, PCC, El Camino, and I think ELAC was after that too, were like both very important games in order for us to be able to make playoffs or even be considered to go a wild card in the playoffs. And we got to PCC and we scored first, and then they scored, and then they scored again, and then we were down. Actually, we didn't even score the first half. We were down 2-0. And then I feel like Juan just told us, like, if you guys want it, like, you're going to have to make it happen. We can't be on the field for you. He always told us that if things weren't going the way, like, we can't be on the field for you. You have to want it for yourself. And then we ended up coming back to win, I think it was 4-2. It was 2-1 in the very beginning. Leonie scored, and then we went into halftime, and then we got right out of half, and then I scored in the first 2 minutes of it to tie the game. And then I think like 10 minutes later I scored again to like put us over, and I got hurt, and so I had to go out of the game. But I knew that like my team was going to be able to like hold it down for the rest of the time. Like we would be able to accomplish it because we all had each other's backs at the time. And like on the field, like if one of our teammates got beat, there would be someone else right behind them. And I think that also played into being the most important component of us beating Cyprus, was we just frustrated them. They came in walking with all their flags flying of how many times they won state or how many times they won the nationals, like for women's and men's, and they just had a chip on their shoulder, and we were just like, Juan told us they have more pressure than you do to win. And I think that pressure is really what got to them, because there was a big crowd, like bigger than what I've seen, like even come out to our home games. There was just a lot of people there, and their men's soccer team was cheering and yelling and like trying to get in our heads, like singing and like doing a whole bunch of stuff on the sidelines that would be like very distracting. And I think in the end we just knew, like, if we want this result and if we want to go on the next level, like we really need to make it happen like now. And so for us to score on them early, they didn't score on us at all. It ended up being an own goal, which was unfortunate, but it happens. Like trying to clear the ball, like stuff will just happen. And then for that to tie us up and make us go into double overtime, still no goals, and then have to go into PKs, and then our coach being like, okay, who wants to take them? And you having to be the leader because you're a sophomore to take the initiative to be like, okay, I'll take it. I think one freshman took a PK, and that was Maddie. But it was Liani, Moose, Maddie, me, and I was the last one to take it because they had missed their two. Mm-hmm. Our goalkeeper, Gabby, walked up to the penalty line, stood in front of her as she set the ball down, and then walked backwards. I think that really got in her head because then she shot it way over the net.
So you scored the game-winning kick on that one then,
yeah.
Since you're the last one. How did that feel? To be the kick, the game-winning kick to knock out?
It was cool. I mean, it took them a long time to say that we won, even though like we knew, like, once I ran back and I made mine, like that was it, like it was over. Mm-hmm. And they had already missed two, and then the rest were kind of like standing there waiting. A couple minutes passed by, we're like all talking, we're like, we won already, like we just beat the number 1 seed. And then finally they blow the whistle, and then our whole bench is sprinting out to Gabby. We all like dog pile on top of her. She can't even breathe. And it's just like an experience like I'll probably forever treasure, especially since we have pictures to document it. Like, about to print those out and hang them up.
Save them to the cloud too,
yeah.
So they never disappear. All right, thank you, Hannah, for coming in today. You are on YouTube. You have some highlight videos on there, correct?
Yes.
Highlight videos, it's Hannah Grady on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then on Twitter and Instagram, you are _ Hannah Doe _.
Yeah, I made that when I was like in 8th grade, but I kept it. It's catchy.
It's catchy. It's catchy. And that's Doe spelled DOE. Just so anyone who's listening can go follow Hannah if you want to follow her on her career playing Division I NCAA women's soccer.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.